Welcome to episode 1 of the very first ever PCC Podcast. I'm Marissa Roy, your host, founder, and owner of Permanent Change Coaching, which is what PCC stands for. And I'm so excited to be bringing to you this podcast. I have had this as an idea in the works for a while now, and I'm just really excited to be bringing it to you on all your favorite podcast platforms. And in today's episode, we're just going to be talking about the purpose and the vision of this mission, this podcast, and PCC as a whole. And so in this podcast, what you're going to get is you're going to get a lot of really quick, actionable takeaways from me, Marissa, the owner of the company, but also lots of interviews with our clients and the journeys that they're actually going through. So you can put yourself in the shoes of women who are a step or 10 steps ahead of you. And interviews with our coaches and our expert staff here at PCC about all of the amazing skill sets that our team has. And I'm so excited for that, to have something that is exclusively for PCC and our clients and our community to learn from and gain value from. And so really the mission of this podcast is to be the catalyst for permanent transformation in women's lives, starting with taking ownership over your health. And so before we get into, exactly what PCC is and what we're here for, I actually think it's important to give you some context in order for you to really understand where we're coming from with all of this. So I'm going to take you back to 2012, 2013, about a decade ago at this point. And this was back when I was in high school. Right now I'm 26 years old. It's 2023. So back in high school, 2012, 2013, and even before that. So, all of this obviously starts with my own story and what I've overcome and why I've made this my mission to help other women. So growing up, honestly, I was a healthy kid. I was definitely never overweight or obese. My parents took really great care of me with my nutrition. Like, my diet was chicken nuggets and hot dogs and Kraft mac and cheese, but my mom would always cut up fruit and have me eat that as a snack. That's an Asian mother's love language. And she would always steam either broccoli, carrots, peas, or corn, and have that on the side of my meals, just plain steamed vegetables on the side of my meals of like chicken nuggets and hot dogs and mac and cheese. And so I always had this kind of like fruits and veggies were just a part of my diet even as a kid. And so I'm grateful for having that be a part of my upbringing. But literally, other than that, as a kid, I ate whatever I wanted. McDonald's was just this treat that I looked forward to whenever we could go through the drive-thru. Like, I definitely wasn't a kid who was raised on organic, like lean proteins and leafy green salads. So that was kind of my upbringing. One thing that I look back on and I'm like, I don't know how I did that, was in like middle school, when I first started playing volleyball. I fell in love with the sport of volleyball at a young age, and I was playing that full time. And back in middle school, when we had tournaments, my tournament day breakfast was a McDonald's big breakfast with hot cakes, and I would eat the entire thing, syrup, eggs, hash brown, pancakes, orange juice and all. And that would be my fuel to go play in a volleyball tournament all day. I honestly don't know how my stomach handled that at that point in my life, but I guess that's what happens when you're 12 years old. So that was kind of my upbringing with food. And, our generational upbringing with food is really important to how that influences our adulthood. And so in high school, I started becoming aware of not only my performance in my sport, which was so important to me. I had big aspirations to play in college at the time, but also aspirations for my body composition. I was playing volleyball, which is a sport that is inevitably known for really short and tight shorts and really tight form-fitting jerseys. And so it was just kind of a natural consequence of the nature of the sport at the time to like look around at other girls' bodies and start comparing. And so I would do that. I was no exception to the rule. And I was comparing my body to other girls in the sport and other girls that I played against, that I played with. And I started like really trying to pay attention to my own body. And I remember in particular, there was a team that I played for when I was a sophomore in high school, and I was playing on a team of all juniors in high school. I was playing a year up, and it was such an awesome opportunity that I kind of stumbled into, but I was able to learn a lot from that team and that experience. But one kind of downside to it was I was exposed to at that point, 1 year difference is a huge difference. So I was exposed to a little bit of an older girl's mindset. And I really looked up to these girls. They were juniors in high school. That was like untouchable. You know what I mean? So they would talk about their makeup, their hair, getting ready for dinner on a tournament weekend out. They would be really concerned about how their body looked in all their clothes. And I was like, these girls are all beautiful. Like if they think something's wrong with them, then like something's definitely wrong with me, right? And that was honestly one of the sparks that just catalyzed me to dive into nutrition and health and fitness, and not from the best place. And I think a lot of us women can relate that our health and fitness journey doesn't usually start from a place of just total self-acceptance and love. It usually starts from kind of a negative place. And so this catapulted me into downloading MyFitnessPal and learning how to track my calories, doing my research on nutrition, which was scrolling through Tumblr and Pinterest at the time, and looking at photos of really skinny models and their diets and celebrity diets and all this stuff online. And I was like, this is how you got to do it. So I started shopping for my own groceries and, asking my mom like, hey, can I have the credit card? And can I go get some groceries for myself? And I would start baking my own food at home. And, I was an only child, so I kind of had free reign to do a lot of that. My parents were kind of like, awesome. Like, we don't have to cook for you? Great. So started eating healthier, or so I thought. I really just started eating less, and I was trying to hit anywhere between like 1,200 to 1,400 calories per day while being a full-time athlete, playing hours and hours of volleyball per week. But I saw that these girls who had the bodies that I wanted were also running. They were running for cardio. They were doing ab circuits and workouts at home as well. So I would get, those P90X DVDs and the Insanity DVDs, and I would do those in my living room, and I would go on a 4-mile run around the neighborhood, and I would do a bunch of crunches and sit-ups and leg lifts at home and try to stick to eating 1,200 calories a day. Now you can imagine how that much output and how little input of food would go. And it went exactly as you think it would. The cycle that I got myself really stuck into was I was basically starving myself, way over exercising, and ultimately it led my body to kind of revolt against what I was doing. And my body said, no, we are starving. Give us some food. And it led me to feeling like I had no control, and I was mindlessly snacking and binging on everything in the pantry 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 sometimes nights per week. And I was doing it uncontrollably. I felt like I was blacking out, and I would just eat until I was sick, and I had no control over my own willpower at the time. And it was a really discouraging time in my life. And it was a cycle that honestly went on for a couple of years, like through literally the rest of high school. And I really didn't even recognize too much that it was a problem, because I thought that I was the problem. I was struggling with every time I would overeat. I would remember just laying in my bed, staring at the ceiling and being like, I can't believe you just did that. You're going to have to do so much work to make up for it. And you're going to have to run 5 miles tomorrow. You're going to do 2 workouts. You're going to just make sure that you make up for it today and tomorrow and this week. And that was my mindset. It was in the cycle of binging, then restricting and over-exercising, and then binging again and restricting and over-exercising again. It was literally just that over and over and over again for such a long time. And that was one of the darkest places that I've ever been in my life, with that plus some more emotional stress going on in my life for other reasons. And so all of that to say, it was around junior, senior year of high school where social media was really starting to take an uptick. This was about 2012, 2013, 2014. Instagram was starting to be a thing, and I was starting to follow some influencers and people who are still relevant in the space to this day that were preaching a different message. It wasn't just eat salads, eat less, move more, but it was also eat to fuel your body and strengthen your body with weight training. And this is how you actually get toned. And I think it was honestly just luck that I stumbled across some of these pages, these names, some of the names you might even still recognize today, like Layne Norton, Amanda Bucci, Emily Hayden, Emily Duncan, Marie Wold, were some of the first fitness influencers in the space. And they were doing, the bodybuilding thing, they were competing, and I followed their journeys on Instagram, on YouTube, and I was like, this is so cool. I love this message, because it was different than what I was doing, and these people were seeing real results. They were eating dessert, they were having chocolate, they were doing things that I didn't think were possible, and also reaching their physique goals. So slowly, I started dipping my toes into what they were doing, lifting weights in the gym, eating a little bit more, and over the course of the next couple of years, late high school into early college, I was starting to raise my calories up to 1,400, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, slowly over time, because I was terrified to eat more food. And slowly but surely, the binging decreased as I increased my calorie intake over time. I didn't necessarily understand the correlation that well at the time, but I realized after the fact, hey, that's why I was binging in the first place. And strength training was something that I fell in love with, absolutely fell in love. And in my senior year of high school, I took a personal fitness class, which was essentially just training in the weight room for your first period of the day. And I absolutely fell in love. After my first semester of senior year of high school, I joined a gym during winter break of that year, and also got a job at the front desk at that gym. And for the rest of senior year, honestly, I was hooked. I felt literally like an addict. Everything that wasn't the gym, I couldn't tolerate it. I couldn't think about it. I was out the door at whatever time school ended immediately, didn't talk to anyone, and just went to the gym for hours before my shift started at 4. And I would just, do these crazy workouts, and I was learning so much about strength training, and I was learning so much about nutrition and meal prep and all this stuff, and I was becoming so passionate, while at the same time I was also really distancing myself from all my friends at school, because I was literally that hooked. And that's really what catapulted me into this world of sustainable, healthy nutrition and fitness. I still wasn't doing it quite right at the time, but it was better. It was better than before, and I was enjoying it. And when I graduated high school, this is kind of getting into how I now started my career in fitness and why PCC exists today. So I basically, when I graduated high school, I was under the impression at the time that I was going to University of Texas at Austin. I had signed a letter of intent. I was going to go study nutrition there, and we had a little apartment all picked out and everything. And then around the end of senior year, I met a boy at the gym. He was a little bit older than me. He was super into lifting, and we just started hanging out all the time. And it came time for me to finally put in my housing deposit for my apartment in Texas. And the day before, I was literally I can't do this. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay back for a boy and for the gym. And that was literally 18-year-old Marissa. So made that decision. Didn't tell anyone. Still had my graduation party where everyone was like, congrats on going to Texas. And I was like, okay. Really awkward. But got through that. Changed my intentions publicly and stayed back. My parents were like, oh my gosh, thank goodness we're saving $50,000 a year since you're not going out of state. And I decided to ask the gym that I was working the front desk at, like, hey, if I got my personal trainer certification, would you guys let me train people here instead of just scanning people at the front desk? And the fitness manager at the time, super grateful to him because don't know what he saw in me because I did not know what I was doing at that point in my life. But he said, sure, go ahead, study for your cert, and we'll get you some clients here at the gym. And so I did that. I crash studied for my certification in 3 days, took the test, passed it, and started training clients the August after I graduated high school. And I did that for about a year at that gym. And this is really why kind of the online coaching thing became a thing for me. I was training clients in person and was absolutely loving it. But I also was just really struggling with my own confidence at the time as a trainer who was 18 years old, the youngest trainer in the gym. And I was constantly looking over my shoulder thinking like, there's no way anybody here takes me seriously, not even my clients. And that was really exhausting. So it was the physical output of carrying my clients' weights around, coaching them through, talking them through all day long, and constantly looking over my shoulder and thinking no one actually takes me seriously caused me to burn out really, really quickly. And I know I did it to myself, but that was just 19-year-old me at the time. And I burnt out from training in person. And I was also frustrated because my clients weren't seeing a lot of results. And I really started to think about why that was. And it was because I realized that training people in person, while it may be a very valuable hour of the day, a couple times per week for these people, it's only 1 hour out of 24 of their whole day. And so we're missing the other 23 hours in how their nutrition looks, how their self-care looks as a whole, their routines, their mindset, and everything in between those sessions that we wouldn't have enough time or space to really talk about, because all I was concerned about was making sure their form was right and that they were not injuring themselves on my watch, because I was nervous that, I was gonna get fired at any second. And so I basically realized the gap in the services that I was providing, and I saw that other people, some of the same names that I mentioned that inspired me to start lifting weights in the first place, were doing this online coaching thing. And they were YouTubing and vlogging, and they were like, this is my life. I woke up, I'm in sweatpants, and I'm doing client check-ins. And we're talking about their nutrition and their mindset, and I'm holding them accountable and their training, all from the comfort of my couch. And I thought to myself, this was the beginning of 2016. I had just been accepted to a local university at the time, which is where I got my undergrad. And I was like, I'm about to start college. I'm exhausted. And I do not want to keep doing this in-person training thing because, number one, it's not me. I don't think I'm an in-person trainer type of gal. And number two, I just don't think my clients are seeing real results. And so I said to myself, why not me? If all these other people can do it, why can't I do it? So I put up quite possibly the ugliest website you've ever seen on sitebuilder.com called marissaroyfitness.com. And I still have a screenshot of the post saved of the website. It was just like a selfie of me sitting in my car on the cover of the website, and it was like online training services. And it was, I guess, super adorable in a way, in hindsight. And I just started my business. I didn't really overthink it. I was just excited, and I was like, well, why not, right? I'm 18 years old at the time, about to turn 19. Why not? And that was March 8th of 2016. So now as I'm recording this, it's been about 7.5 years since I started my business. And it's just so cool to see where we are today. But it all started with just kind of a why not attitude, rather than overthinking and waiting till I felt qualified or waiting until I felt ready, because I definitely wasn't either of those things. I just started. And over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, I started uploading 1 to 2 YouTube videos per week. I was posting 2 to 3 times per day on Instagram. And that was back when, that really worked, with just like photos of your food and selfies and inspirational motivation, all this stuff. And I was showing up more than I ever have before on social media. And I was able to grow my following from like 2,000 or so people to about 10,000 in that time frame. And I was really seeing the online coaching thing take off. And now granted, this was back in the day where you could post, I'm giving online training services, and people would just DM you. And it was very simple. But I was doing it. I was doing it for $50 to $100 a month, but I was doing it. And I was making real money through Venmo, but making real money. And I was like, oh my God, I can really do this. So I slowly weaned off of the in-person training over the course of the next 6 to 8 months. So I was in-person training at the gym for about a year in total. And then I was just training online from like late 2016 until now. And over time, it was just a slow build from there. And in 2021, I decided, you know what? I'm seeing that there's a potential for growth beyond myself. It had already become my full-time income at the time. I was really proud of what I had grown it to become. But I said, I want this to be something that isn't just Marissa Roy Fitness, which was the name of the company at the time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to see if we can scale this thing. And I hired my first business mentor. I wrote them a really big check. And I said, we'll see what happens. And basically drained my savings account to see what a business mentorship could do for me and my vision and how I wanted to help women. Fast forward from 2021 to today, it's been about 2 years since then, and now I have an incredible team that you're going to meet on this podcast, one by one, of 10 amazing women and my husband. And we have impacted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lives at this point, and reach thousands on the daily with social media, with Reels, with TikTok, with YouTube now, and this podcast. And, our mission at PCC is truly to help you take control over your life, starting with your health and fitness. And we've helped so many women do that with an all-in-one inclusive service that has your nutrition, your training, your accountability, your support, your mindset, everything covered. And I've been able to build this literally from the ground up, which is so freaking cool. And so I tell you my whole story, and this podcast is longer than I anticipated it to be, but it's the first one, so it's okay. But it's longer because I really wanted to give you the whole story as to how a girl in high school can go from the darkest place of her life to taking control of her health and her fitness by learning sustainable methods where you can eat your favorite foods in moderation, not have to burn yourself to the ground with running and cardio and working out and starving yourself to see results, to learn that and make it a catalyst to change thousands and thousands of lives with her career. And truly, that's what we do at PCC for our clients. Every single woman who comes through our door and adopts these methods and works through the formula and sees their own results is then empowered to take control of every other area of their life. And there's not a single person that we've helped that's seen great results physically that hasn't also seen great results mentally and in their careers. We're talking promotions, we're talking, moving up, making a career change to something that they're passionate about, having better relationships with their husband, with their kids, setting a better example as a parent, and just being able to be the best possible version of themselves. And in the past, saying that would have felt really cheesy, but that's truly what we do at PCC is we empower women beyond health and fitness They take control of that, and the world opens doors for them because they've proven to themselves, look at what I'm capable of. Now what else is out there for me? And so that's my story, and that's our client's story at PCC. And, maybe it's your story next, since you're listening to this podcast, and hopefully you feel inspired and motivated and can take that next step to take your health to the next level. So if you feel like you resonate with, being in my shoes, maybe you were in that eat less, move more mentality, you were burning yourself to the ground, and you just couldn't see a way out, and you thought that you and your own willpower was the problem for how you're not seeing results and how you're stuck and unhappy in your body. And you're just tired of second guessing, like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and I feel like I'm putting in all this effort and I'm not seeing results. And if you feel like that's you and my story resonates with you and inspires you, I want to encourage you to just hit subscribe to this podcast today and just get the notifications for when our new episodes come out. They're going to be coming out every single week. And I really just want to play a small part in educating you in your life so that you can take the next step that catalyzes your future with your health, your fitness, and the rest of your life too. So welcome to the PCC Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next one next week.